Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm grateful to be here today to examine the urgent issue of modernizing our nation's infrastructure. There is bipartisan agreement that we need to take action to improve our nation's infrastructure, including roads, bridges, airports, waterways, freight, rail, and broadband internet. However, one major obstacle to achieving our shared goal is government red tape that has accumulated over the past 50 years. The result in an infrastructure approval system that delays projects, increases costs, and leaves our infrastructure needs unmet. If we want to modernize our infrastructure, we first need to modernize permitting rules to set clear deadlines and reduce project approval time while maintaining common sense accountability for environmental impact. Rebuilding our permitting framework will reduce costs and allow vital projects to move forward. The other big question here is when it comes to modernizing our infrastructure is how to pay for it and what to include. Unfortunately, Democrats have proposed raising taxes on all Americans as a way to pay for their so-called infrastructure package, the vast majority of which has nothing to do with infrastructure. These tax hikes will result in less investment in the United States, hurt our nation's economic recovery, and destroy jobs for hardworking Americans. Instead, I think we need an approach that leverages technology, focuses on cost-effective projects, finds creative ways to finance our infrastructure investments. In addition, the solution must minimize the burden on taxpayers as much as possible. We have a responsibility to ensure the tax dollars the federal government collects from users of our infrastructure are being used wisely and efficiently. For example, public-private partnerships have proved effective time and time again in spurring investment. I've long championed legislation called the Move America Act, which would help state and local governments leverage private dollars for infrastructure. It would allow them to issue tax-exempt Move America bonds or Move America tax credits to finance P3s for the infrastructure projects that are most important to their communities. Instead of partisan tax increases, I would hope that we could have a bipartisan discussion about ideas like this to revitalize our nation's aging infrastructure. So shifting gears to you, Mr. Novogratz, I'm grateful that in your testimony you highlighted critical bipartisan legislation I was proud to introduce with Reps. DelBene, Winstrup, and Beyer to strengthen our nation's most successful affordable housing program. This legislation would build or preserve over 2 million affordable homes, support 3 million jobs, provide $345 billion in wages and business income, and generate $119 billion in tax revenue over the next 10 years. The critical expansion of housing credit resources provided by our bill will absolutely help produce affordable housing, not just in urban areas, but in the small towns and rural communities that make up the heart of Indiana's 2nd District. These resources will help working families, people with disabilities, seniors, veterans, and so many others when market rate rental housing is unattainable. Specifically, our legislation would provide a rural basis boost of up to 30%. Expanding the equity available to finance important affordable housing development in areas where production has been difficult, including so many rural communities that make up America's heartland. Mr. Novogratz, can you tell us more about the challenges of affordable housing development in rural areas and explain how this basis boost proposal and other important provisions of the AHCIA can help address these challenges?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you for that question, and thank you for your leadership with respect to the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act and the Long-Term Housing Tax Credit more generally. There's a handful of provisions sort of working together with respect to your legislation that will boost the development of affordable housing in rural areas. Rural areas have unique challenges to develop affordable housing. You have oftentimes higher construction costs due to the distances and the like, as well as lower than average median income levels. And the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Improvement Act, by increasing that basis boost, allows more tax credit equity dollars per dollar of project costs to help offset the fact that there's lower median incomes in those areas. So that's a critical component to bring more affordable housing to rural areas. I also would note that there's another provision, a 50% basis boost that goes beyond the 30% for extremely low income developments, which can also be an additional feature to bring more affordable rental housing to rural areas.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady.